What successful famous sitcoms you didn't find funny at all? Anything on CBS where a fat guy has a wife that's way too attractive for him. It all started with the Honeymooners 70 years ago. Then the Flintstones. Then every other sitcom with a bumbling fat guy and the smarter, hotter wife who puts up with his shenanigans because he's got a good heart and needs her guidance. Raymond wasn't fat, he was just an idiot, ha. Two Broke Girls, it was like fingernails on a chalkboard to me. I never figured out how that show got past the pilot or at least the first season. Cardboard acting, horrible writing with contrived joke setup with every line of the show. And there wasn't a single likable character. Except maybe the horse. But then I just think of what that apartment must have smelled like. Remember iCarly? But like the literal iCarly web show within the sitcom, where they would do silly stuff on camera? I always found that part kind of cringe. The rest of the show was great though. Basically that web show was teen humor in a universe where you couldn't drop an F-bomb. Most of it was just unfunny stupid, but there were a few of them that were offensively unfunny. Like the one where they just ran around in circles, leaning into the camera and making noises. Anything Chuck Lorre made, 2.5 Men, Two Broke Girls, Big Bang, etc. All I hear is canned laughter, and once you notice that, there's not much else. Two Broke Girls wasn't Chuck Lorre, that was Michael Patrick King, who also made Sex in the City. Did have the terrible laughter tracks Chuck made famous. Might have even been worse than anything Lorre did. The Big Bang Theory. They totally have no idea whatsoever about what nerd culture is like. Frasier did a much better job about intellectuals dealing with chaotic and ordinary situations. They know exactly what it's like. The show is written for people's moms. Looking back on my TV consumption, I spent way too long watching him instead of mixing it up more. The first 4 seasons actually have really clever high-quality writing in my opinion. If they kept it only 5 to 6 seasons long and brought the story together better in the end, then I think it'd be remembered more fondly. The first half of the final season saved so much they seemingly threw away, and then the second one undoes character development and does many other things just to appease people who shipped Robin and Ted, and also loved Bro Code Barney. Honestly, I prefer the alternate ending to the shown ending, but the show itself is a hard watch these days due to outdated concepts. Notice how no one has said Malcolm in the Middle, and that's because it's one of the greatest sitcoms to come out of the early aughts. Legitimately one of my top 10 shows of all time. I thought everyone played their roles so well, but Bryan Cranston and Jane Kaczmarek were so amazingly great as a couple. The way he was so carefree and did the stupidest shit while she was this tough enforcer that everyone feared. The chemistry between them was something else. On that note, and don't shame me, but I finally need to watch Breaking Bad. For years and years I've meant to, but every time I sit down to watch the first episode, one get distracted and never go back. I always wanted to watch it just for Bryan Cranston, but I've been a huge fan of Bob Odenkirk since Mr. Show and would love the ability to watch him in that, and of course Better Call Saul. Mike and Molly. The crass things the characters say makes 2.5 Men look like a religious documentary. This was the only thing on TV when I was in labor last year. Seriously, in 2022 we can't get better TV in the hospital? There's like 10 channels. When I started actually pushing, I was like, turn this shit off, my baby will not be born to this. Everybody loves Raymond. Every episode I've seen is a grown-ass man letting his family come into his home to annoy and bully the shit out of his wife, to her obvious distress, while he refuses to set boundaries and stick up for her like a proper adult. My own in-laws find this show hilarious. I don't think it's a coincidence. LOL and sigh. I couldn't get past the episode where Deborah wanted to go to a bed and breakfast for a weekend with Ray and he bitched about it incessantly. Like, dude. Your wife wants to smash in a fancy place and you can't shut up long enough to get some? Why are you even married? The episode that did me in was when Marie gave Deborah her meatball recipe, but sabotaged her so they came out awful, and of course with basically zero consequences. So gross. 2.5 Man. To this day I never understood the hype. 99% of jokes are about how everyone is a sex-crazed narcissist who hates everyone else including their family. The remaining 1% is funny but definitely not enough to warrant watching the entire show. I don't think I've ever seen a show about such miserable and spiteful people so heavily idolized. And I've seen Roseanne. I'm old. Never found The Honeymooners, The Flintstones, or any show where the husband beats up on the wife, figuratively or literally, funny. I Love Lucy was an exception, cringy in parts, but Lucille Ball was such a hoot, you had to laugh. More recently, I seldom watch sitcoms. I rarely find The Big Bang Theory funny, although I don't hate it like some Reddit folks do. I do love The Good Place, though. Second season is a gem. I guess I am from a different generation and culture, where Flintstones was seen as a kids' show, and not something to be taken seriously like Simpsons. I know Flintstones was on during primetime, so it was taken seriously at one point. And being taken seriously, to me means something people discuss at work or gym. Like Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad. Something with substance.